Breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. Virginia set to hire Tony Elliott as their new head coach. Elliott, of course, who is the offensive coordinator with the Clemson Tigers, set to make the switch. He's been Clemson's OC since 2015, winning 2 national championships. He also won the Broyles Award for the top assistant coach in college football in 2017 and replaced Bronco Mendenhall, who stepped down as the Cavs head coach after 6 seasons with the school. Clemson has now lost their offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and athletic director all in the past week. So it leads to the question, what's going on at Death Valley? There's always coordinator movement, but what's happening at Clemson seems to be a little bit unique. And for more on this, let's now welcome in the host of the Cover 3 podcast, our Chip Patterson. You guys were talking about this very move this week, and Chip, we kind of expected this a couple of days ago. Now it's happened. So what's your reaction to the news that Elliott is leaving Clemson for the job at Virginia?
I think that the timing is the key word here, because earlier, just before we start to get the news that Tony Elliott will be the next head coach of Virginia, we find out that the University of Virginia Board of Visitors has approved more than $10 million to be directed from funds to the athletic department for improvement in football facilities. And I think, Jeremy, when reports were out there that there was a snag in the negotiations between Virginia and Tony Elliott, I wonder if this $10 million for football facilities improvements has something to do with the reason why Elliott is reportedly about to be introduced as the next Virginia head coach. What Tony Elliott brings is knowledge of what it takes to be able to compete at the highest level in the ACC. Virginia has gotten to the ACC championship game and got blown out by Clemson. So when Tony Elliott steps forward and approaches Virginia and says, I have been inside and seen a program rise in this conference to the very top. I have a specific plan. I just need a little bit more. This shows me that Virginia is willing to make the investment. And in a coaching carousel where in the ACC, and specifically the ACC Coastal Division, we also saw Miami step up and start making financial investments that it had not in years prior. I would say that all of this is a good thing for the ACC. Tony Elliott adds to what has been a pretty good coaching carousel for the conference.
What does he bring to the Cavaliers?
Number one is the program vision, as I was talking about, having seen what it takes to be able to compete at the highest level. And that is not only an investment in finances, but also a commitment from the university. They use this term a lot called alignment. And it's when everybody has the same priorities in order, all the same across football coach, athletic director, university president. And when that works, you can get a lot accomplished. And if he can bring that and get Virginia to that place, then we could see Virginia, a university that is in a very talent-rich state, really start to capitalize, even as it has some of those academic requirements, which can be hurdles. I think it is interesting also for Tony Elliott that as an offensive coach, he's coming off of arguably the worst season of his offensive coordinator career. Clemson was dreadful on offense at the beginning of the season, but late in the year, they sort of found their rhythm in the running game. Clearly, he deserves some of the credit for what Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence have been able to accomplish. But again, going back to timing, Tony Elliott is still a hot coaching commodity. He has been a candidate for Power 5 jobs before. This is a good hire for Virginia, in my opinion. But Tony Elliott is also coming off of a year where it was Clemson's defense that was kind of carrying their way to a 9-3 finish.
Yeah, look, let's talk about Clemson. They've now lost the OC, the DC, and their athletic director. So what does this exodus mean for the Tigers as a program?
In one sense, it was due time. Like I mentioned, Brent Venables had been mentioned as a candidate for other Power 5 jobs before. Tony Elliott reportedly had interviewed for other Power 5 jobs before. And so it's just, the number is up. I do think it's a fascinating fork in Dabo Swinney's personal trajectory, because this season was clearly the end of a run. They had 6 straight ACC championships. They absolutely ran the conference for more than an entire cycle of a graduating class. The way that the Tigers held their fist over the rest of the league was something that we had not seen since Florida State back in its own heyday of running off conference title after conference title. So now you lose a couple coordinators and you're going to have to make some decisions, whether you promote from internally and continue to maintain the same plan, the same trajectory, or as you have just taken a step back from your standard of being the champion in that league, Are you going to make an outside hire? Are you going to bring in some new voices? And honestly, no one knows which way is the right answer and whether or not it will work out. Only time will tell there. But for Dabo Swinney, if we want to talk about you down the line as one of the greatest of this era, then being able to make these tough decisions is a big part of it. Because Nick Saban, he's had to make those tough decisions plenty of times, and he has proven to be among the best, not only on the field coaching, but arranging a staff as well.
And it looks like they might be elevating from within. Their reports saying that defensive assistant Wes Goodwin, a strong favorite to take over the D.C. job, and Brandon Streeter, the former Clemson quarterbacks coach, expected to receive strong consideration to replace Elliott as the OC. He is Cover 3 podcast host Chip Patterson joining us to chat about Tony Elliott leaving Clemson for the head coaching gig at Virginia. Thanks, Chip. And, of course, they'll be discussing this and plenty more in terms of what's coming up in the college game and what's happening now on the Cover 3 podcast. Chip Patterson, Tom Fornelli have it all covered for you each and every week. Download and follow the Cover 3 wherever you get your preferred podcast audio.